Now, I just want to move on to something else, talking about things that don't have basis in science to things that don't have basis in economics. Joe Biden has this week announced a huge student loan forgiveness plan. We have a little clip of his spokeswoman, Karine Jean-Pierre, talking about it. Let's have a look at this.
If you don't know how much it's going to cost, how can you guarantee that it's going to be paid for, even if you're defining paid for in a way that some of us have questions about?
Look, I think what I can tell you is that we have done the work to make sure that this is done in a fiscal responsible way, in a balanced way.
So they don't even know how much this thing is going to cost, but basically working class people and people who didn't go to university are going to have to bail out the people who went and did PhDs in gender studies. How is that going to play in the midterms?
Yeah, look, well, the Democrats, I think that it's going to buy votes. I think it's a cynical ploy. I certainly hope that it backfires, but I think the reason it's taken so long for this policy to come in, because of course, remember this was promised back in the 2020 presidential campaign. I think it's taken so long because they wanted to time it right before the midterms, because it's a vote-buying exercise. I mean, 20 million people will have their debts completely written off, and then there's another 23 million people who'll have a substantial reduction. But just to your first point, yes, it's completely unfair. I mean, the share of Americans over 25 who've been to university is still only 38%. And that 38% is certainly in the higher income earning brackets. And so you're seeing a transfer of wealth from the bottom 62% to the top 38%, which is wholly unfair. And even economists from the left side of politics, such as Larry Summers or Jason Furman, they've come out very, very strongly this week and slammed the proposal.
Now, I promised that we'd talk about this at the start of the show. We've just had word come out that Mark Zuckerberg has said that he dialed down coverage and the exposure of the Hunter Biden laptop story on Facebook because the FBI issued a request to him. Does this make sense to you from the point of view of this greater thought about the deep state trying to tamp down on the Hunter Biden story before the election?
Well, certainly right now, yes. I mean, that's certainly true. But it goes to the bigger question of the relationship between the government and big state. I mean, we're seeing more and more legal cases in the US prop up of basically Washington asking Google and Facebook to do various things, Twitter to do various things. And of course, this is completely against the Constitution. So I think this new piece of evidence is very worrying, because it proves that there is a tendency there. There's a growing tendency there. And more specifically, it suggests that there is a great deal of bias behind the scenes about the Hunter laptop story. I mean, it's a great story, and it's been endorsed now, of course, famously by the New York Times, and yet it wasn't allowed to be reported. It's extremely extraordinary, and it's going to be very interesting to see what further comes of it.
Adam Creighton, I agree. That's all the time we've got for this tonight. But thank you so much for joining us.